doppelgangers, those pesky copies of you, which according to folklore means that you are a dead man walking. Well, everyone kind of is anyway, but sooner rather than later. Many famous people have had encounters with their double, including Abraham Lincoln, Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, and Catherine the Great, just to name a few. Are these encounters glitches in the Matrix, interdimensional, or demonic? Who knows? But there are plenty of people out there who can tell you firsthand that they are real. And just so you know, we are using pseudonyms for all of the characters in today's stories, except the last one. The last one is one of the most witnessed and well-known cases in doppelganger history. So stay in one place, see what I did there, for these duplication encounters. Jacob remembers one Sunday morning, he and his brother were watching Card Captor Sakura on TV when there was a knock at the door. Now, they lived in a 2-bedroom apartment that had the kitchen and the bathroom and the living room toward the front, and it had the bedrooms toward the back. It was a second-level apartment that had a shared entryway with the first-level apartment and a really big picture window that if you looked out and a little bit to the right, you could see anybody who was at your door. So when Jacob hears somebody knocking on the door, he looks out the window, he sees it's his dad, and goes to the door to open it for him. And just as he's about to unlock the door, his mother pulls him away and says, "Don't open the door when you don't know who it is." And Jacob says, "It's Dad." His mom freaks out. She goes to the window to see for herself who is there and then checks the peephole. She gets to a new level of terrified and tells the boys, "Get to the back bedroom and don't come out until I tell you to." Then she goes and wakes up Jacob's dad. He wakes up all angry and confused. "What are you waking me up for?" And the mom tells him what they all saw and that the man is still knocking on the door. And Jacob's dad gets out of bed, puts on his robe, goes to the front door and says, "Who is it?" No answer. So he says, "I'll call the cops." But no response. By now, Jacob and his brother have snuck back out into the living room. And while his dad is busy yelling at whoever's knocking at the door, Jacob looks out the window and sees this person that looks just like his dad standing still in front of the door. So his mom grabs both boys and again drags them to the back bedroom while his dad gets ready to open the door holding a metal bat. So he readies himself with his hand on the doorknob, takes a deep breath, flings the door open, ready to swing at whoever is there. And the man is gone. And Jacob's dad runs out into the courtyard, looking everywhere around the apartment building for somebody who has to be there. And the door to the shared entryway is a heavy metal door that everyone can hear open and close when somebody comes in or out. But no one heard anything that morning, and no sounds of anyone leaving after his dad had opened the door. And they heard no footsteps either. But Jacob's brother, mother, and he himself all saw that man that looked exactly like his dad. When Justin was in high school, he was a courtesy clerk at Albertsons. And people were telling him all the time that they'd seen him in this place or this other place, places that he'd never been. One day, he had a pretty tight schedule, so he was going to go straight from school to work, and he wasn't going to get home until about 9 o'clock that night. That night, he goes home and walks in just after 9 o'clock, says, "Hi, people," to his mom and his sisters. And they all look really confused. And his mom asks, "Where are you coming from?" And Justin says, "Work. I've been there since I got out of school." And his mom and his older sister both say, "No, you haven't. You came home earlier, said, 'Hi, people,' and went upstairs to your room." And Justin says, "I haven't been home since I left at 7 a.m. this morning." So they all four went upstairs to see who was in Justin's bedroom. And they see that his bedroom door is closed. Justin usually leaves it open. So he slowly turns the knob and opens the door and sees that the lights are on and the TV is on, but nobody's in there. But wait, there's more. Justin's high school has a sister school called the Skills Center. The Skills Center is a place that has a bunch of vocational classes that the students from the high school can take. For example, He took TV broadcasting, web design, and forestry. And one day, Justin's TV broadcasting class is over and he is sitting on the bench waiting for the bus to come and pick him up, when a teacher that he does not know comes running up saying, Justin, you have to come back to class. He has never been in her class, but according to her, he's been missing for the last few weeks. And Justin tries to explain, I'm not in your class. But she seems to know who he is, and she takes him to the office thinking he's ditching. So they go in. Justin tells the office clerk his name, and she looks up his records. And sure enough, there he is in broadcasting class, just like he said. But then they look up the roster for the other teacher's class, and there he is, under his stepdad's last name, in her class. Justin went by both names, and sometimes it was a little confusing. But both names were fairly unique. So it's not like some kid with the same unique name that looks just like him is going to enroll in this other teacher's class. That's just not going to happen. And looking at the class records, he had been in her class the entire semester until he stopped showing up a few weeks ago. He had even turned in work, and Justin's signature is on the enrollment form. One day, this doppelganger simply stopped showing up, and he's never been seen since. Nate is about 15 and home alone over a long weekend while his parents are traveling. And on Saturday night, around 7 or 8 o'clock, he's in his bedroom upstairs when he suddenly hears his mom call up for him, "Come and get dinner!" He pops his head out of his room, confused as hell, and nobody's there. So he calls back down, "Mom, are you home already?" And there's a long pause. And after a few seconds, his mom comes walking around the corner from the direction of where the kitchen is and looks straight up at him from the bottom of the steps. And she just smiles and walks right back to the kitchen. And Nate is frozen in place for a second, but hears her call him again. "Come get dinner!" Now he thinks about just walking down the stairs and finding out what the hell is going on and why she's home so early. But the fact that she didn't talk to him or utter a single word while she was actually looking at him is really strange. Like, why did she just smile at him and walk away? That just didn't sit right. The fact that he never actually saw her mouth move. He can hear her and he can see her just as plain as day, but not both at the same time. And that smallest of details is why he chooses instead to go back to his room, shut the door, lock it, and call his mom. And she answers her phone immediately and tells Nate that she's still several states over, hundreds of miles away. So Nate hangs up with his mom and immediately calls the police, thinking there's an intruder or something. And the police come and search the house, but they don't find anything. It was all locked up with the security system on and everything. Nate did not sleep there alone anymore after that. Mark lives with his wife in an apartment complex that has only 6 units, and the front door of each unit opens to the outside. And this night, it's about 10 p.m., and Mark is taking the trash out to the dumpster in the alley next to the complex. And he and his wife live in apartment number 5. And if you walk outside, once you open the door, there's a little raised landing where you can put a welcome mat. Step off the landing, and you're on a short little walkway. And at the end of the walkway, you have to go either left or right, because in front of you is a super tall fence that separates the apartment complex from the house next door. So if you turn left and go through a wrought iron gate, that's where the dumpster is. And once you're there, if you turn back around, you can see the entire length of the walkway in front of all 6 units. And the entire area is so well lit that it was easy for Mark to see when his wife opened the gate and headed down the walkway toward their apartment. And Mark waves at her, but she doesn't wave back. And he has no idea how she could not see him. And he almost yells to her, but he doesn't want to startle either her or the neighbors. So he just starts walking back to the apartment. And as he's walking, he sees the door to their apartment is open. And he sees his wife kind of lean in and yell, "Mark!" But she doesn't go inside. When he finally gets behind her and says, "Hi," she freaks out and says, "How the hell did you do that? How did you get back outside?" Mark says, "I've been at the dumpster emptying the trash." And she says, "No, you opened the door for me and walked upstairs. I called after you and you turned your head and looked at me, but you just kept walking without saying a word." And she starts crying. Mark searches the apartment, and guess what he finds? Nothing. One of the most famous cases of an alleged doppelganger is Emily Sagi of Dijon, France. She was a teacher in 1945 at the Neuvelk boarding school, an elite girls' boarding school located in what is today Latvia. And the school is so elite, it only had 42 students. Emily was known to be a reliable and capable teacher, but she had been through 19 different positions in the last 16 years. Wonder why? Well, she hadn't been at Neuvelk very long when the word started getting out pretty quickly that the popular teacher had a strange habit of being in two places at one time, sometimes in the same room and in front of witnesses. One day, during Emily's French class, she's standing in front of the class writing something on the board, and her ghostly twin materializes right next to her and mimics all of her motions. The kids in the room say the doppelganger is completely identical, down to even every article of clothing. And the copy looks just as solid and lifelike as the original. And it's not just during class. Sometimes the copy can be seen next to her as she's sitting and eating or as she's walking along. And they often see her wandering the halls of the school, only to later find out that she was in her office or even at home asleep. In the most stunning encounter, the doppelganger appears to all 42 students in a sewing class. The sewing teacher has left the room, and Emily appears in the teacher's chair, even though the students had already seen her outside picking flowers. But now that she's sitting there right in front of them, the students look out the windows again and can still see Emily out there, still picking flowers, but now she's moving slower and heavier, almost like she's falling asleep or running out of batteries. Two students cautiously approach the entity. They wave their arms and their hands pass right through it, but they say it has a thick feeling to it, like thick fabric or the stuff that cobwebs are made out of. Eventually, the copy vanishes, and once again, the students look back outside and see Emily outside, still picking flowers, but now at her original quicker pace. And Emily could never see the apparition. Instead, she claims that during these strange episodes, she felt tired and drained of energy. And despite being a model teacher, fear amongst the parents had dwindled the school's enrollment numbers from 42 down to just 12, forcing the school's administration to fire Emily after just 18 months of employment. And if you need even more stories of weird things in the world, click right here, and we will see you again on the InBetween.